Hey guys, it's me, Ghost Mikey, back with another Retro Redux, and today we're going to talk about one of the most impactful movies of my generation and the generation right before mine. Well, I don't know really where I land on the Gen Z, Millennial, Gen Y, whatever spectrum. I was born in 99, but still, I only just recently watched this movie in full. Any other time I've watched it, I was too inebriated to finish and recollect what I thought about it, or, I was just too young and dumb, I felt like, to fully understand the concepts behind this story. And I know what you're saying, first time in 2025, are you drunk?
You're done it now, bitch! You serious?
Maybe I was that entire time. But today we're talking about
Scott Pilgrim?
Scott.
Scott.
We are Sex Bob-omb! 1, 2, 3, 4!
Lemonade and stasis. Mama serpentine. I got a breathalyzer. And my body's clean.
Now, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is a movie based on a comic called Scott Pilgrim, but in this movie that we're talking about, Scott Pilgrim is a bassist that meets and falls in love with a woman named Ramona Flowers. But before he can be with her, he must fight her evil ex-boyfriend.
Exes. Why do you keep saying
Now let's just talk about Scott Pilgrim. Scott is a 22-year-old slacker scumbag who is dating a 17-year-old Chinese Catholic student. But in this timeline, that's the key, this timeline, because there are a bunch of other timelines in the Scott Pilgrim verse, the video game, the anime, and the comic, that are all different and separate from this one. It's not like this has any real continuity to it. In fact, a bunch of things are completely different in this, which is pretty cool. In this timeline, Scott is more of a soft boy in comparison to his contemporaries. He, soft boy twink, and that's mainly because of Michael Cera. The portrayal of Scott in this iteration is good enough because Michael Cera does a great job, but I think his idiocy is probably better portrayed in the comic, or at least in the anime. Honestly, I feel like the anime probably has like the best portrayal of Scott on a personal level, but in terms of his arc in this story, it's really good. And I must say, outside of dating someone underage, Scott Pilgrim is very relatable to me, unfortunately. Obviously, outside of the underage girlfriend, his hygiene and intelligence, like seriously, this nigga don't wash his hands, bro. I relate to him on multiple levels when it comes to, I guess, my personal failures or weaknesses. Over the course of the movie, he has his arc and he learns about self-respect and love and stuff. But his lack of ambition, despite his immense talent and badass fighting skills, are so me, it's not even funny. I also like how they portray his narcissism in this film, how it's portrayed visually. Not only in the story is his head so empty with thoughts of anything outside of himself, people can literally travel through his brain, but also there are like cool little skip edits that happen in between conversations and events that Scott doesn't really care about, that I think is also really well done. Next we get to Ramona Flowers, and Ramona is pretty chill, not gonna lie, so despite the fact that she has exes that want to murder anyone that plans on dating her. But it's fine, because to be honest, her and Scott are really perfect for each other. Her appearance in the story helps open up a bigger issue when it comes to Scott. At first he's portrayed as kind of like a dim-witted idiot, but then you realize he is a dim-witted idiot, but he also has the weakness of being unaware of how his actions harm people, whereas Ramona is the complete opposite. She understands and is shamed throughout the entire movie when it comes to how she's affected her exes, as opposed to how Scott just kind of walks around without a care in the world. They are both toxic avoidance in different ways. It's just that her awareness allows her to become more of a wallflower and closed up, which I think was really cool. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is really good in this, and to be honest, her chemistry with Michael Cera is also really awesome. Then we get to Knives, aka Kung Pao Chicken. Whoa, hold on. I'm not racist. There is context to that joke. She's adorable, but annoyingly hilarious. And, you know, she's 17, the 17-year-old Chinese student I was talking about earlier. But the ending she gets here somewhat redeems the situation between her and Scott, and her entire arc of just being the toxic ex, pretty much becoming the equivalent of Scott's evil exes versus Ramona's evil exes, I think was a cool dichotomy. Next we get Wallace. Wallace is Scott Pilgrim's platonic gay roommate. Kieran Culkin does a great job in this movie as well. And also, to be honest, Wallace is a really good friend. He tells Scott exactly what he needs to hear and will be there for him, but his deadpan delivery on certain checks of reality to Scott are really good.
Scott, just because Envy's back in town doesn't make it not over.
Kick her in the balls!
And he pretty much is like the moral fiber of the movie outside of stealing Stacy's closeted boyfriend. Now, when it comes to the rest of the characters, however, Sex Bob-omb and a bunch of the other supporting characters, they really aren't given enough to do, which makes sense considering the runtime, but it's very disappointing considering how fleshed out they are in the other media forms in this multiverse. Steven and Kim in particular get the shaft, especially Kim, considering her history with Scott and how much, you know, his redemption deals with her and yada yada yada, or even in the anime, how much representation that they get. Same thing with young Neil, Julie, and Stacy. Outside of Julie seeming to have like a crush on Scott maybe, and Stacy showing up a bunch of times throughout the story, I wish these characters got more to do, to be all honest with you. But let's get down to it. Let's get to Ramona's evil exes. Now, for the sake of, I guess, not spoiling it for anyone who hasn't seen it at this point, I think I'm probably the last one. I'm going to rank the exes not in the chronological order that they appear in, but just the ones that, you know, I found entertaining, that either made me laugh out loud or made me chuckle or whatever, to the least entertaining. So let's get it started. First up, we got Johnny Storm. I mean, Steve Rogers. Lucas Lee. He actually, out of all of the exes, despite the fact that he, you know, tried to kill Scott, seems to be a decent dude.
What's up? He seems nice.
Especially considering how him and Ramona broke up. He's also a meme now, like how I played earlier, which is really funny.
That's actually hilarious.
Next up, Roxy. Roxy is hilarious and super, super hot in the anime, not gonna lie. But she's just filled with like funny dialogue, honestly. Like, she has some of the best lines in the movie, in my opinion.
Prepare to die, obviously. Your BF's about to get F'd in the V!
And she literally orgasmed to death, so shout out to her. Next up, we got Superman Returns, aka Todd. And to be honest with you, this dude's evil, dude. He hits little girls. So, you know, he's definitely one of the more evil exes. But I think the thing that sends him over the edge and makes him the evilest ex is that he is a vegan. And he has like special abilities because of it. In fact, the entire film just presents itself with this weird video game-like aesthetic, or anime aesthetic, or manga aesthetic, where characters have abilities, immense fighting skills, and deliver dialogue and things like that in this weird expositional way, which is played up for laughs as opposed to usually just being used to provide exposition. This is actually there for a point to be made, which I think is pretty cool. And the vegan police are hilarious. Patel is funny, and the song was too, but pirates are not in, and that did not rhyme. Next up, we got the Spot, Gideon. And you see all the nerd references I'm making? Do I get cool points for this, guys? Gideon is the main boss of the exes and the one who united all of them into this league together, and he doesn't really have a gimmick outside of being like the boss. It's just that Jason Schwartzman is such a good actor. I like him more in the anime though. Here, he's just kind of like a one-note douche.
Ow.
And kind of racist.
Listen, Kung Pao chicken.
See, I told you I wasn't racist. It was a callback, see? Y'all gotta be patient. And finally, we got the twins, who literally don't do anything. They have like a little ant versus ant battle with Sex Bob-omb, but there's no dialogue, there's no development, nothing like that. These are characters with dialogue in the comic and in the show, and here they just don't do anything. This might just be the best live action adaptation of a manga I've seen. It matches the source material in many ways, including the tone and the aesthetic, which is crazy because I feel like most live action adaptations shy away from that in order to be bound to the laws of the reality that the film is based in, but instead they go all in with a bunch of things that really don't make sense or happen out of nowhere. Visually, the sound effects are, you know, appearing on the screen in text or screen effects, like music notes, love hearts when people do romantic things, or this face. I also like that sometimes the text on the screen is included in the punchline for some jokes at times, like this one right here.
You are incorrigible.
I don't know the meaning of the word.
There's also just the cheeky, quick-witted humor and editing like other Edgar Wright films, like Hot Fuzz, Baby Driver, and Shaun of the Dead. Perfect example is the montage near the end where he's tying his shoes. And I also like the joke of how people can recognize people from shitty doodles.
Hey, Como, you know everyone, right?
Yeah, pretty much I do.
You know this one girl with hair like this?
Yes, that's Ramona Flowers.
The dialogue overall is incredibly literal at times and incredibly hilarious. Like,
Is Scott here?
You know what? He just left.
Really?
seeing this film a couple days ago for the first time in totality, just sitting down and paying attention, was the first time I was able to just like laugh at a movie in a while. So shout out to this movie. And the soundtrack is decent. To be honest with you, I wasn't really in love with the soundtrack, but I do have a favorite song, and it is So Sad.
Thank you.
Now, when it comes to the things I don't like, since I've ingested the rest of the Scott Pilgrim verse, I haven't finished the comics. I have one book left, and I never played the game until completion. I played it for like a couple levels, and I finished the anime, but it's been a while. I gotta rewatch it. But this might be my my second least favorite over the video game, considering how much I didn't play that one. Not because of quality, but just in terms of runtime. Not enough is given to the characterization of some people, like I mentioned earlier, and they all get a lot more to do in the anime and in the comics. So I guess I just like the fact that those mediums allow me to live in this universe a little bit longer. But majority of the time, things just feel like they happen out of nowhere, and unless you embrace the tonality of it all, that is kind of just inherent in the other mediums, whereas in a film it's a little bit jarring if you're not knowing what you're stepping into. And for a while, I think that was my issue with this movie when it came to watching it, was just how purposely campy and stylistic it is. It was very jarring for me. Outside of that feeling though, the movie has enough sauce, humor, and visual loyalty to the source material that it allowed me to really enjoy it and have a good time. It has joined my movies I can throw on to play in the background or fall asleep to list. But in conclusion, Brian Lee O'Malley, I understand, everyone wants to move on and make new things, or maybe support someone else making new things, but please, dude, make another movie, season of the anime, game, or book. Either way, I just want more Pilgrimverse. I could just see a future with this franchise. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all in the next Retro Redux. Bye-bye.